Hello and welcome to A Star to Steer Her By, episode 185.
Woo!
6.
Woo!
5.
Woo!
5.
Oh, why did you make a face when I said 5 then?
Who made a face?
You did.
No, I was responding. It was an alternate. It was an alternate to wooing.
This is how
Oh.
Ames expresses joy.
Silent reactions are great on podcasts.
Well, I just thought she was telling me I'd said the wrong number. 185, bitches!
Better?
See? She's happy.
This week, we will be looking at the Sword of Kahless and our Man Bashir. Oh, but before I almost launched into our summary, and that would have been dumb, because, see, I'm Chris, and joining me this week are...
Ames.
Caitlin.
Jake?
And Liz!
Yep, I knew it. I knew Liz would be back.
You can't
Crazy.
escape me, especially now when Bashir and Garak are here.
But before we get to that, we have Indiana Jones, but with Klingons, kind of.
Basically.
Sort of.
It belongs in a museum.
In
Dr. Jones,
space.
sit down.
Top men.
So,
We named the dog Kahless.
So Kor is on Deep Space Nine getting shit-faced and telling stories. And Dax is all, Worf, you should come say hi. And Worf is all, yeah, but he's like wicked famous and cool and I'm dishonored. And, she's like, oh, come over here. And Kor is all, oh, yes, the dishonored one. Any enemy of Gowron's a friend of mine, just fucking with you. Hey, you want to come look for the mythical Sword of Kahless with me? And Worf is like, oh my god, I have a double. And off they go! After confirming that this Shroud of Turin, but not really, is old enough and has enough metal on it that, yeah, it might be real. And Sisko gives them a runabout because he's like, if a Federation officer finds the Sword of Kahless, that could be some brownie points, or blood wine points, or whatever. So they go off to get it, and Kor found out about this because apparently at some point they made him the ambassador to Vulcan.
God.
And
I missed this entirely.
Yeah, he was the Klingon ambassador to Vulcan.
Fair.
And a Vulcan mining concern found, some old ruins on this planet in the Gamma Quadrant. And they go there and they break into an old museum. And at first they're like, no, it has been ransacked. But then they're like, wait, there's a secret room. And oh shit, it's the Sword of Kahless. And they're like, yes. And they come out and there's Belloc, by which I mean, Toral?
Toral.
Toral, son of Doros.
What did you say?
Belloc. He's
I
the
don't know
guy.
what that means.
From Indiana Jones.
Yeah,
Oh,
there,
Lost
cool.
Ark.
there is nothing.
Thank you for explaining. I didn't get it.
There is nothing you can possess, Dr. Jones, which I cannot take away. So yeah, it's that guy who was like the Doros son back in TNG, and we all assumed even though Worf said let him live, they tore him to shreds afterwards. But no! Here he is! Because apparently Kor got shit-faced in a bar one day and told everyone his plan. So Toral sent one of those zappy brain people from the absolutely abysmal Distant Voices
Oh yeah, the Lethian guy.
to zap and read Kor's mind, so they just followed them. They get away, and as they have to try to make their way back to the surface because of Klingon jamming signals. And at this point, it turns from Indiana Jones to Lord of the Rings, and apparently the Sword of Kahless is the One Ring,
Yes, I said the same thing.
because fucking Kor and Worf are suddenly both jonesing for it, and they're like, I'm gonna make myself head of the Empire, and they're constantly at each other's throats.
And
Worf
Jones
tries
are
to
cool.
get Kor to jump onto a ledge that in no way would have supported his weight.
But the precious.
Yeah, seriously, I was waiting for an explanation as to why it did this, but we never got one.
I have one.
Thank you, I hoped you would. Eventually, Jadzia gets sick of it, and literally I wrote in my notes, oh my god, just stun them both. And she does! 2 minutes later, she stunned them both, and I was like, thank you! And they go back to the ship, and decide it's best if no one possess it now, and they beam it into space.
Just fucking
Good.
wild.
The end. So, Ames, why is the Sword of Kahless the One Ring?
Alright, so the writing staff just kind of they didn't want it to be a magical totem at all. They just wanted it to literally just be a fucking sword.
Right.
And that the only reason that everyone would get so fucking tangled up over it is because basically Klingons really wanted the power associated with the sword, even
Sure.
though so it's not the sword, it's the power that's making them all go fucking batshit. But then the writing staff was all surprised when they got all this reaction from the audience that they all believed that the sword must be magical. And they're like, but we never said that, and that's not what we wanted, and damn it!
Well, because it's
stupid audience.
It is not in character for either of the Klingons. Like,
yeah, especially for Worf.
No, because like I could feel if his whole thing was just I can restore my honor, but then he's like I could lead the Empire. Like I didn't want a magical explanation because that would have been stupid. But I was waiting for Dax to go like, oh, there's like a weird fungus on here that only affects Klingons.
No, that'd be corny though. Like I kind of like that it's just
corny.
No, I kind of like that they just get themselves too hyped up over what would it mean if I were the one to bring this back. And Worf even tells this story about how he went back to Kronos. What was this story that I was only half paying attention during? It was like I went back and I didn't fit in, and it was the classic kind of mixed breed heritage person thing. And
and then he went to the woods for 3 days without food or water and had a vision of Kahless and...
Yeah, I can see him getting on board this. If I bring back the Batleth, then I'll actually have a place to fit in, which is something he's never had.
Well, and that would have been fine for me. It's the fact that he was like,
willing to kill for it?
And it's like...
Yeah, he goes homicidal.
Yeah, it's like, I could picture Worf wanting to fit in. I could picture
Kor went homicidal first, though, and he deserved it.
But, like, the idea that Worf would want to take over Worf does not want to be Emperor. No. And it's also the fact that it escalated so quickly made it feel like it was artificial. So, like, I think they kind of... If maybe the escalation had been slower or something, but it just... Because it happened so fast and so dramatically, it was like...
Well, keep in mind, you also have Kor here being very antagonistic, saying, oh, you are not a true Klingon. You are more human than Klingon because you left Toral alive.
Yeah.
Rrr.
Yeah. Again,
there's a lot going on.
Like, I just think if they'd limited themselves to maybe just, I want my honor back, and Kor maybe being like, I just want to stick it to Gowron, it would have been fine. It got a little too escalated for me to feel like, I still liked the episode, but I was waiting for there to be, like, some kind of explanation as to why it got so big. Like, it really, I even wrote my notes, like, okay, so one of them is Frodo, the other is Smeagol, so I guess that makes Dax Samwise.
Hey, I like that. Oh, I should have mentioned earlier, directed by LeVar Burton.
Oh, yes, I meant to do that when I did my intro. Yeah.
So he gets to play around with Michael Dorn again, and that's sweet.
Yeah.
That's nice.
But again, overall, aside from that escalated quickly, I did quite like the episode. I like, it's, at first at least, it's Indiana Jones, but Klingons. It's nice to have Kor back. He's fun.
I like how charming Kor is.
Yeah, he's great.
Very charismatic Klingon.
It was nice to have Worf interact with his people again, but with one who is so, like... Because Kor himself is, he's a slightly odd Klingon.
Yeah, he's not quite the traditional Klingon.
No.
I mean...
He loves telling a story,
he is the original Klingon.
That's true. Yeah.
Like, he is the first Klingon.
That thing is, he's still sort of a TOS Klingon, even now.
Yeah.
And that's what makes him different.
Well, he's more, I think... Because we've talked about before how Worf himself is kind of like...
Catholic Klingon.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like in the same sense, Kor is the same way, but he's more like Worf is that way because he did the book learning.
Yeah.
He read about it, but Kor lived in an era when Klingons were Klingons and honor was everything. So it's no surprise that he looks at people like Gowron and being like, he's a politician.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy who, as Worf even says, he went toe-to-toe with Jim Kirk.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal.
Yeah, I wish like the story that he was telling in Quarks at the beginning had been like, and then the Organians, they did this bullshit and Kirk had to bow to me. And...
Oh no.
See, the problem is, if you're in a room full of Starfleet officers, it's easier for you to call them on their bullshit if their boy was involved.
That's true. Well, I do like also, though, how, like, Jadzia is like, well, when Koloth tells his story, it's a different thing.
Yeah, he's the one that did all the awesome stuff.
But to his credit, and I appreciated this, it's like, which one of us actually took down the main dude? I don't know. It was one of us.
So we all ate his heart.
Like, together. I feel like if they
big heart.
If they'd all still been alive, each one of them would have claimed it. But the fact that he's the one survivor, he's like, you know what? I'm going to give that to all of us.
Out of respect.
That was kind of sweet.
Yeah. You know, made me miss Koloth, though.
Aww. The wrong Klingon survived.
I mean, they all are a valid choice.
What'd y'all think of Jadzia this episode?
Well, I thought she was fine.
She was the only adult in the room.
Yeah. I think, again, as we were discussing last week, her taking more control of her life very actively at the end.
Yeah, I was so glad when she just fucking zapped the both of them.
Yeah,
that's the only way to deal with this.
It was. And like I said, I literally, maybe 2 minutes before she did it, I was like, oh, Jadzia, just stun them both and you'll get your sleep.
I do like when the Klingons show up and Jadzia goes into, Klingon cultural mode. I like the kind of code switching that she does.
Yeah.
Because, it does kind of work like that, because I used to work with international students, and they were coming from all over the world, and depending on who I was hanging out with, who I was interacting with, I put myself in a different headspace.
Yeah.
And it sort of recognized, seeing, when she just, up and stuns them, I'm like, yeah, she wouldn't do that to Starfleet officers.
No.
But,
maybe Bashir. Maybe early seasons Bashir.
Yeah. Early seasons Bashir, absolutely.
Definitely. And he would have
And Quark.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And again, I think that's a good case again.
And then
of
maybe she checked to make sure it was on stun.
And that was another good example of them using her past lives effectively, because obviously all of that comes from Curzon.
Yeah,
most of what we see comes from Curzon.
Yeah, well, Curzon was basically Klingon, so
yeah.
Yeah, I have a great note from LeVar Burton when he was working with her, and basically said something to the effect of, we're gonna. They turned her into what they called Action Barbie, which sure. And they said, all right, all your instincts this episode are not going to be you thinking about shit. They're going to be all instinctual stuff. So the quote had to do with really rooting her performance way down in the belly and not in the head. And my thought was, the belly is where the trill is.
True.
Did they actually say the words Action Barbie?
Yeah, apparently that's the nickname that LeVar came up with for her because...
Wow, that's nice.
Because, it was meant to be complimentary, and she talks like she likes the nickname as a compliment. It would not fly today, for sure.
I was going to say, I don't like it.
Oh, no. This is not where we were, but I forgot all about this.
It's because he underestimated her. That's what it was.
Well, I mean, given to what they've been using Jadzia for the first 3 seasons.
Exactly.
Which, in case anyone forgot, is boys.
Boys.
So I was just looking at my notes, and one thing I forgot about, which we can get away from this once I say it, but that fucking razor.
No.
Oh, yeah.
That was clear symbols all over again.
Apparently that was
like
the same razor prop
from...
something. It was apparently the same one that Geordi uses in Code of Honor, I think, according to Memory Alpha.
Well,
probably.
I guess maybe that's LeVar Burton's.
It looked like
idea.
a self-inking stamp.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
But it's just
no, it did look like a pencil sharpener to me. Yeah.
Again, that's just a case where, guys, honestly, you could have. We're kind of, I feel like, at a point where razors really have kind of hit their final form. They're probably going to look like that for a while.
I don't know. Gillette's going to find a way to add more blades.
All right, but it's never going to be
by the 24th century, there's going to be 37 blades.
A quantum blade.
Well,
oh no, quantum is already a thing, isn't it? In one of the products.
Here's the thing, though. Actually, I could buy building something into a razor where it's basically a transporter for your hairs, and it only latches on to hairs, and you just go, and it takes it away.
I also feel though like Nair and things like that, stuff that just prevents your hair from growing would have.
Well,
that's
lasers.
Exactly it.
We have lasers now.
Yeah, but you could. But I'm sure. But there's probably a more temporary solution.
Epilating.
Ow.
I mean, honestly, I feel like the most the next step to elevate it to would be a temporary genetic treatment that hair does not grow, and you can just reactivate those genes if you want a beard.
Yeah, something like that.
But I mean, if they want, honestly, it just would have been less distracting if they bought a normal electric razor and just painted it silver and put a Starfleet logo on it.
Nah, that would have been dumb.
Dumber than a blue fucking plastic cube that went.
I don't know. It didn't bother me nearly as much as it seems to bothered you.
So annoyed me. Because it's one of those unnecessary future things.
Well, no, I feel like we'd be having the opposite conversation if he whipped out a razor, and we'd say, but wait, why would they be using razors?
Why are they still using 21st century tech for that? You're telling me they haven't figured out a way to turn those genes off yet?
I'm of the opinion that, they would just... Because when Mott just used scissors at his barbershop, it didn't bother me. He's like, scissors. They're not getting any better.
Wasn't there an episode where someone used some kind of crazy device that changed their hair color in a second?
Yeah, that was one of Mott's things.
Yeah.
That's fine, sure.
So that doesn't bother you,
but
shaving does.
Because it just looked like a hair iron. It's like, even if it was like a razor, but like they zoomed in so you could see it was a laser beam maybe. Also, I just don't buy it. It looks like he was trying to do precision trimming, and it's like that thing is too clumsy for precision trimming.
For you maybe, not for Cisco.
This has been grooming corner.
Yeah, I didn't expect it to go on this long.
Yeah,
back to the BB episode.
Honestly, there's not enough going on in this episode.
This episode was really good.
It's a good
except for
episode.
that goddamn shaving scene.
Yes! It drove me nuts. I hated it.
There was definitely a lot that I liked about this episode, but I felt like the middle was so repetitive. Like, at some point, I was really not interested. Like, okay, we get it. They're still lost in the caverns. They're still fighting. Great.
Yeah, I feel like the limits that they kind of imposed on themselves by being in the caves all the fucking time really kind of drove them crazy. Because I know, it meant that they couldn't be working at anything else because there's also only the same 3 actors in all of the shots.
Yeah.
So basically, they had to make it as as little work as possible because they could only do so much shooting in these fucking caves.
Liz said
this
it while we were watching. This episode
could have really benefited from a B plot, I think.
That's what I was just gonna say. Liz had said the same thing while we were watching it. She was like, "There needs to be a B plot."
There's the one time I was actually looking for a B plot.
Please God, anything.
Something, just a break from the Klingon nonsense.
Yeah,
it was a little.
Who's got a streak of darts this week?
Right,
darts.
Or just a big B plot of Eddington sabotaging everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's just what he does in his spare time, but he just sits in a corner
space razor.
But I feel like the equivalent of that would just be like, I don't even know what, it gives him a black eye, like one of those inked eyes, like, oh, look at my cool kaleidoscope. No, son of a bitch, but it's a razor.
Yeah, exactly. You use it and you pull it back and there's just new hair having sprouted from your face. What the fuck?
Headington! That damn prankster.
So we have Taral.
Yep.
Who I'm honestly surprised is still alive.
Me too.
I forgot he was still alive because I've seen this episode before, but I forgot it was him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew he was coming just because when I read up when we first met him in Redemption, and there was a note in Memory Alpha that was like, we're going to see him again in DS9 sometime. So I knew we were going to see him at some point. I'd never have known it was him because A, it's a different actor.
Yeah.
And B, they do so fucking little with him. Like at the very, very end when he's dead and Jadzia grabs him, or when he's dying and Jadzia grabs him and is like, get the fucking thing to let us go back on our shuttle. Yeah. I didn't even know it was him.
I am so sick of dealing with these two. Turn off your jamming signal.
Yeah. And then she murdered him.
Yep.
He's finally gone.
For one, how does the House of Duras still have money or power or whatever it is that gets people to sign up with them?
Haven't his aunties been smuggling shit?
Yeah, they're dead by now.
They got blowed up.
Oh yeah, maybe he inherited.
Maybe.
I assume he's just a pirate or something.
Arr.
Yeah.
That's why he needs the Sword of Kahless. He needs to get his power back.
Yeah, that's what he said. That was his goal, was to get his house reinstated.
Yeah.
So he's probably been running around being a disgraced, mercenary or something.
So, did anybody else think when Kor got brain zapped that this was going to be his coma dream?
Oh yeah. Is he turning 30?
Long balls.
The Klingons have 4?
I feel like we've had this.
4 long balls?
4 long balls.
How does he get out of his coma, though? He's got to run around and destroy all of his enemies and make Gowron like him.
Well, so, like, when we were watching it, Liz kind of said something like, is this his last hurrah? And that made me think, like, maybe he wasn't going to make it out of the episode. Because Bashir almost died, right, during his time. So, Kor's kind of older, stories of, like, the good old days and this one last treasure hunt and such.
It definitely felt like it at first.
Yeah.
What's
Missing
that
from the
species
end of this
called?
episode was missing from the end of this episode was at the end, they'd never had a scene back on DS9 where they go into Sisko's office and Sisko's like, "Hey, did you find the sword?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "Yeah, we did." He's like, "Great, the Klingons are going to love this." Oh, so where's the sword? Oh, we shot it into space.
Yeah, I assume they told him they couldn't find it.
Yeah,
Vast,
hopefully.
endless vacuum. Statistically
that thing's
impossible
never
to
coming
recover
back.
it. No.
Like,
I think...
Well, when
Space
it's
is
destined
huge.
to, it will.
I think it was a really interesting take on it, like the scene where Worf wants to treat it as a museum piece, but Kor's just like, it's a sword. Like, it's an important sword, but it's still a sword. He used this to till fields and do this and do that, and I'm not just gonna let it gather dust.
And it was made of his own hair.
Yes.
I did like that conversation. I thought that was neat.
what? The sword was made of his hair?
According to legend, he took a lock of his own hair and shoved it into some lava, and that's how he made the first bat'leth. That was brought up
I missed
ages
that.
ago in TNG.
Oh, okay. I was going to
That's
say, I
like
missed that piece.
that's like
No,
a
the
urban
conversation that I'm
legend
talking
type
about
of
is
deal,
is whether to put the bat'leth on a pedestal or to put it to practical use. Like that I thought was a neat conversation, because that's actually something that gets talked about a lot in curation.
Yeah.
Especially depending on the culture that an object and or artifact might come from, because there are some things that, especially, I guess I'm thinking of when the Smithsonian, the Museum of the American Indian, was created. There were a lot of cultural practices that had to be considered, and a lot of museum practices that had to be revisited, because like these were a lot of these objects were considered, depending on the nation or the tribe. They were considered living objects, and so like you couldn't like shut it up in a little sealed box. Like that thing this thing needs to breathe, stuff like that. So like it's like a mini version of that. That was like the 5 minutes I was actually interested in this episode.
Yeah, it harkens back to what I think I mentioned was the original plan for the episode Shakar, which was what were they, reclamators or something that the people needed. We're going to be put in a museum or some shit instead of being used because they need to fucking till their fields.
Yeah.
That is still the fucking dumbest thing.
I had assumed Lizzie would take a particular interest in the very little bit of museum discussion. What were the aliens called? The Herc?
The Herc.
The Herc.
HUR''Q.
Basically, they're the British.
Yeah.
They just go places, steal stuff, and put it in a museum.
Yeah.
Or they're whatever race of people that guy who collected data that time was.
Oh, yeah, that was for a personal collection.
Oh.
So that's slightly different.
Yeah.
You trying to tell me that you don't think some colonizers took their own special treasures back to their own house?
Oh, they absolutely did.
Totally
That was the beginning of museums.
In this case, this was specifically a museum.
True.
True. Oh, yeah, no. People totally took personal shit.
But even then, who are the museums for?
Right.
It's not for the source culture.
No.
Right.
Was the implication, because the implication I got anyway was that the Herc were least for a time, colonized the Klingons.
That's what I thought. I might have misheard. At first, I thought the Herc were outcast Klingons or something like that.
Yeah, well, they said that the word Herc is Klingon for outsider.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. No,
so it sounds like they were a species that invaded, conquered, and ruled the Klingons.
Well, he
for
said
a time.
He said they pillaged. I don't think they ever successfully took over.
No, I don't know.
In a wide, they may have taken over areas, but I don't think they ever really truly got their mitts in a big way. Also, it's evidence that there's been at least some Gamma Alpha Quadrant contact going back quite a ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, was it?
Well, if the Herc were like a super powerful species, I mean, for all we know, the Herc were like the changelings, you know?
That's a good point. It could be.
Something that kept getting me distracted was the fact that, so we're looking for Kahless' sword, because it's going to unite the Klingons, and it's going to make everybody happy again. But we have clone Kahless lying around, and he was supposed to unite the Klingons and make everybody happy again. This seems like a bad plan.
Well, see, this, unlike clone Kahless, is the genuine article.
Yeah, but clone Kahless actually has some semblance of, like, wisdom, and he's a person you can talk with.
Yeah, but I clearly there's at least some Klingons like, yeah, but he's a clone. So
also,
do they know he's a clone? When did that get leaked?
Oh, I don't know. Core seemed to know about it though.
Yeah, that's weird. That was supposed to be a giant secret.
Yeah,
I'm sure it wouldn't stand up to too much scrutiny.
Yeah, that got out.
Whoops.
Yeah.
Probably Gowron's fault. Fucking Gowron.
Yeah. Probably did it on purpose.
Well, yeah, definitely, because that would take some of the power away from
him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he probably tweeted about it.
Yeah, it is pretty weak though, the idea that an object, however revered an artifact it is, like how is that gonna unite them? Like what? Like okay, we got it. Now what? What would the idea be? The big idea be behind it, aside from what we're seeing, which is
have you met Americans?
Yeah.
Why? What would the big thing that we need to go find and?
I don't know. George Washington's wooden teeth. I got nothing.
Whatever Nicolas Cage was looking for.
Yeah, like people so easily rally around the stupidest symbol in this country, and it sounds like the Klingons do too. Only
yeah, but it's not going to unite them. There's no reason to believe that it would unite them. That's the thing.
The symbol never unites. It always divides. It always like, you know, in fiction anyway. If there's an important item, it's going to cause conflict. It's Indiana Jones, right?
It's always about, because an object itself is passive. What's ascribed to it, you know, it has power, but then you have to go into who's ascribing that meaning to it. So, like, the closest I can think of to something that, you know, someone might try to argue was a unifying symbol was, like, Mussolini when he kept reviving all of, like, the Roman Republic and Roman Empire shit and all these artifacts, and he built monuments and stuff as a unifying thing, but it was propaganda, and it was very one-sided as far as messages were concerned, because he controlled the voice.
Yeah.
So, like, there's no reason to believe, like, once you have the thing, you just put it in the middle, and suddenly everybody's united. It's a matter of, let's get the thing, but who wants to get the thing, and who gets control.
What they needed to do was pull who's the fucking guy that cuts the baby in half, and everybody's happy?
Solomon?
Yeah, pull a King Solomon, cut the bat in half, give one to Core.
Wait, was it Solomon or David?
Solomon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, give another one to Worf. Maybe Son of Duras there can keep the hilt that it was standing on, and
I mean,
everyone wins.
Perfect.
It would be almost as if, like, you could actually somehow provably, unequivocally have the Holy Grail or the Lance of Longinus, like. That, at the very least, again, I think people unite behind the owner, but, like, it has a big significance to a lot of people.
Yeah, no, but I don't think there's any doubt that these things have significance, but it has no power unto itself to be a unifying force. It just becomes the focus of political maneuvering.
Yeah, but that's what I was saying. Like, I think if you owned it, you could get enough people behind you to give yourself power.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
I mean, plus, I feel like they talked a lot about... Sorry, Liz, were you...
No, go ahead.
I felt like they talked a lot about, like, the importance of destiny and stuff, and maybe the Klingons would put a lot of, like, stock into, oh, well, this person found this great lost treasure, so obviously they have a greater destiny to rule things or something. I don't know.
Klingons are weird.
Well, and that's the thing, too, because, like, it depends. Like, you talk about Worf as being, like, the Catholic Klingon. Like, you're not supposed to worship false idols and shit. But, you know, if a Catholic leader came up with, like you said, like, the Lance of Longinus or whatever, there are probably those who would rally behind that. I don't know. Yeah. So maybe the same with Klingons, the really hardcore OG ones who still do their services in the original Klingon or whatever. might be really into it.
In the original Klingon-y.
Excuse me, Klingon-y.
That's there. There's Klingon-y and
Klingonese.
Klingon. No, in one episode it was Klingon-y. There wasn't even an S.
Well, it's like, Middle English.
Yeah, there's Klingon-y and then there's Klingon.
Fine, it happens.
Yeah.
Living, breathing languages, they change.
Yeah.
Also, I totally caught that prep use comment, Jake, just for the record.
Yeah, I did too, and I grimaced and hoped we could pretend it hadn't
What did he
happened.
say?
The holy foreskin. Let's move on.
It's a real artifact,
I know!
supposedly.
No, there's too much of it, though, because so much of it is fake that if it were real, there would be about 10 feet of foreskin.
Dude, Jesus had a huge schlong, famously.
Speaking of,
welcome to relic culture.
So we've got the Klingon Holy Grail, the Klingon Shroud of Turin.
So who has the foreskin?
Yeah, who has Kahless's foreskin? Foreskins.
Klingons don't circumcise.
8 skins.
God.
Kahless's 8 skins.
I bet Klingons would circumcise.
Angels and ministers of
And they
grace
would
defend
certainly
us.
use a batleth to do it.
Oh, fuck.
Oh man, a Klingon moil would be the scariest fucking thing.
The dude shows up in like an executioner's hood.
Oh god.
So, Kor is wonderfully theatrical, especially at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked that he referred to the wormhole as the Eye of Destiny.
Yeah.
The
And
brown
I love that
eye of
scene
destiny.
You watched it because this is probably his first time seeing it open, and that whole scene was, he's like, wait, and he had to like declare the start of the quest.
Yeah. I'd love to hear a
just
Klingon
wonderful.
explain their trip to the grocery store, because it would be like a whole action adventure.
Oh yeah,
It was uphill both ways.
I
through
defeated
snow.
the tomatoes.
there
in
was
battle.
only one acceptable cantaloupe left, and I was not the only one who wanted it.
I was gonna say something about ripe melons. That's perfect.
Guys, I think I'm Klingon.
And my enemy walked down the aisle the wrong direction and was not wearing a mask.
Oh my god, I keep seeing that, and I get so cross.
I actually yelled at someone.
Good.
Was it last week? No, you were there.
I was?
Yeah, it was a couple weekends ago. I was like, not supposed to go down the aisle that way. That
How'd that go?
She ignored me,
Yeah.
but at least I said something.
I'm just happy to be when I'm in a building where masks are required, because no one is wearing masks in my neighborhood outside.
Yeah, no, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been tracking how far into the quarantine we are by how many people in the woods are wearing masks. And yesterday it was only me.
Well, I read
Yay.
something today that said there's like 8 COVID clusters that are emerging in Massachusetts now. So,
I
like,
hate people.
great news.
Awesome.
All right, are we done
Yeah.
with this episode? Because we're talking about COVID.
That's
I'm
true.
ready to move on.
Yeah, I'm ready. Like I said, there's really nothing else that happens. It's pretty cut and dry.
Oh,
Oh.
I do have a note that says, incomplete hedgehog.
What?
Oh, yeah, the weird,
the
like,
thing they
cave
eat.
rats they were
Oh.
eating.
It looked like a malformed
Oh.
hedgehog.
There
Looked
was
delicious.
one little detail that gave me a giggle. It's not important or anything, it was just there. But, like, when they run out of when Jadzia, Kor, and Worf are running from Toral and his men, and they knock over the, like, little thing that's keeping the force field down, instead of just kick it over, which would have been easier, Worf actually bends down and actively cuts it down with his his little dagger thing.
Hmm.
It's like,
I
really,
want to know how
Worf-
the fuck they got out of there.
They probably blew up a wall. Like, they didn't care about preserving the integrity of anything, so they probably just exploded their way out. But yeah, it was just funny. It was like stopping, bending over, and cutting it down when he could have just gone like, hick.
Gotta be sure.
Yep. Alright, well then, if we are ready,
Yes.
let
Can
us...
anyone ever truly be ready for our man Bashir?
Yes. My body is so ready.
So, in Our Man Bashir is in the holodeck playing a sort of a James Bond parody program when Garak shows up to be all like, ha, I'm gonna watch you play this and laugh. And Bashir's like, Meanwhile, the old rule of never go to a conference rears its ugly head again as most of the rest of the command staff is coming back from a conference. And it turns out their shuttlecraft has been sabotaged by allegedly not Eddington.
Oh, I was going to say Eddington. Damn
Definitely Eddington. I mean, he was in this episode.
He was.
So.
And,
No, guys, he gave us his word. He's good now.
Right as they're about to land, everything goes wrong with the ship, and the warp core ejection system has been straight up removed and all this other stuff. So they start to beam aboard, but then an explosion happens, and it fucks up the transporter, and there's smoke, and everyone's like, uh-oh. But they're like, wait, we still have their patterns, but Jesus Christ, their patterns are enormous. So instead of immediately just saying, quick, someone turn on the Defiant, and apparently DS9 only has one transporter pad, they have to, move a bunch of data around and assign delete things to save everyone's patterns. And the computer decides the best place to stick their physical forms is in the holosuites. So, in Bashir's game, most of the NPCs, well, not most, but a lot of the NPCs become like Worf and O'Brien and everyone else. And Avery Brooks is the evil Dr. Noah who wants to flood the Earth. Get it? And restart humanity.
You get it.
I didn't even realize that his name was Dr. Noah.
I thought it was a Dr. No reference.
I mean, it's probably both.
Why not both?
Definitely both.
But, so Julian and Garak have to play out this scenario, but whereas Bond has a license to kill, they can't kill anyone because it might kill them in real life.
Oh, it probably will.
Yeah. And then, so while their physical forms are in the holosuite, their neurological data is just scattered everywhere. So I have to recompile their neurological data. And then, the problem is the holosuite's based on Ferengi tech, or Cardassian tech, and ROM's rejiggering, because Quark is too cheap to buy replacement parts. So they've got to get away for his stuff to talk to the Defiant, and blah, blah, blah. So, Julian goes in a death trap that he has to escape by seducing not Dax. There's a Baccarat game, and in the end, Julian buys some time by actually activating the Doomsday device, because it's just a game, and then everyone's beamed out, and we're fine.
And also, fuck humanity.
Yeah, that too.
It's gotta be cathartic.
Yeah, and I kind of glossed over a lot of it, because we're going to talk about it in depth, because it's amazing.
So, Liz.
Yes.
You wanted to be on this episode very specifically for years.
I fucking love, the Garak Bashir energy, especially in this episode. I love every time they're on screen together, but I feel like this episode is just such a wonderful display of not only of their chemistry between them, as just foils for each other. That's it. They're foils for each other. Garak is walking around what the shit is all this is. Do you really think this is what spies are like? And Bashir's like, no, I think this is fun. Just fucking enjoy it. And Garak is like, this is stupid.
Did you see the rack on my valet? Jeez.
But at the same time, Garak is clearly having fun making Bashir miserable at times. Yeah. Just the scene in the nightclub when Bashir is introducing this is Anastasia whatever the fuck innuendo name
on the top or some shit.
No wait,
Anastasia.
Come on enough. That's right.
Enough, yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Jesus Christ. And this is my friend Mr. Garak. Yeah. I'm fine.
He doesn't get a cover name.
He's here too, and Garak's just yep, this is great. Please continue to squirm. Also, constantly cock blocking Bashir. Totally not jealous.
Yeah, the valet
is totally not jealous.
Mona loves it.
Jesus.
Yeah, see, it's funny. I saw that name written before I heard it out loud, and I thought it was going to be just love sit, she loves to sit. Maybe on dicks. Who knows? And then you hear it out loud.
Definitely on dicks.
Duh, it's loves it. She loves it.
I did not realize until I saw it in print that Honey Bear is Bare.
Uh-huh.
That makes sense. Yeah, I just love this episode because as a wee lad who was fond of both Star Trek and the James Bond series, this was perfect.
Yeah.
And it still is. The music is bang on.
Yeah, except for the nightclub song.
The James Bond DS9 mashup.
Yeah, the heavy brass.
Real nice.
I've got to look out there. I imagine somewhere on the internet someone has written a fake Bond theme for this episode.
You know who wasn't pleased with all the Bond references in this episode?
Julian Bashir.
MGM.
Oh, I was gonna say.
Oh no.
Yeah, they saw this and were like, guys, you know we've got Bond, right? You guys can't have Bond. So when we're going to see spoilers, we're going to see more of Julian playing his game or some shit. So the next time there's reference to Julian's little game, it's going to be much more generic spy stuff and much less Bond specific.
That's lame.
They do know that parody laws exist, right?
This isn't a parody.
Yeah, it's straight up just Bond.
I mean, the thing is, here's the thing. It's kind of Bond, but it's just as much Our Man Flint.
I don't know Our Man Flint.
Oh, that's right.
It was one of the big sort of Bond parodies from back in the day. Because, like, Bond, for all the elements that are Bond, there are plenty of elements that aren't. Like, Flint's whole cover was that he was a jet-setting photographer. You know, Bond, his cover was different every film. He has his own apartment. He's not set up in... Where was he? Not Singapore.
Kowloon.
Kowloon.
Oh, Kowloon.
Yeah.
Like, there were definitely elements brought in, not just from Bond, but a lot of the contemporary fiction that was either parodying or jumping on their coattails. So I feel like to try to claim there's any, like, legally actionable stuff in this is frankly laughable and disgusting.
They didn't legally action anything. They just kind of, like, said, guys, please don't do that. And they didn't.
Yeah,
they
but
probably said it a little less nicely.
It's like, it reminds me, this pissed me off too, because MGM has pulled this bullshit before. Because there was Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me. And it's like...
That's obviously a parody.
Well, but the title, obviously...
The Spy Who Loved Me.
Yeah. And MGM was like, yeah, it's fine. But then the next one came out with Goldmember, and they tried to sue. It's like, you didn't sue over the last one. Like, make up your fucking mind.
Yeah.
And
MGM has been a shitty company for a long time, though.
I mean, most production companies are, but yeah, that's like...
Yeah, but they in particular have done... I don't know. I just don't think their business has been very good. They don't have a lot of great properties anymore.
Bond is probably one of their few.
Yeah. They have Bond and Stargate. And that's what they have.
Okay, but who has Sonic the Hedgehog? Because that's gonna go places.
Sega.
Sure.
They did recently announce the movie's getting a sequel.
Stop.
Yeah.
Who?
Wow.
Which studio?
I don't remember.
Oh.
But who has Trolls World Tour?
Ugh.
Ugh.
I'm glad Jim Carrey's getting work.
I'm just happy for Ben Schwartz.
That's true. He is a fucking treasure. He is amazing in DuckTales.
Have you seen him in what the hell's the other guy's name? Middleditch?
Schwartz
on
and Middleditch.
Game Grumps?
Yeah. Or Middleditch and Schwartz.
No, I mostly know him from DuckTales.
It's fucking hilarious. You gotta watch it.
Their Netflix specials are actually legitimately entertaining.
But yeah, no, this episode though, anyway, James Bond stuff, it's great. I didn't actually read the references yet, Ames, that you said are remembering Alpha, because I wanted to see what I could catch. The only one that was really blatant aside from the music to me was him, like, seeing someone in the reflection of a wine bottle. Although, in the original movie, it was even more ridiculous. It was the reflection of a sneaking up assassin in someone else's eye.
That's
right.
that's very close.
That's
yeah,
right, that
like,
was dumb.
They actually made it make more sense in this episode, because that's a little more believable.
Well, he did the Julian Bashir thing.
Yes, yeah.
And then there's Baccarat.
Baccarat,
and,
of course, yeah.
Baccarat.
I mean, Duchamp is definitely Le Chiffre, but
Yep. And even Noah's plan, to an extent, is very reminiscent of Drax's plan in the film version of Moonraker, where he wants to... the base short version is he wants to restart humanity. But instead of setting up a base on top of Mount Everest and flooding the world, he sets up a space station and is going to poison the world.
Right. Okay.
It's like it's a throwback to that era of Bond where it was just ridiculous.
Yeah,
stuff.
over the top schemes.
And very bosomy ladies.
Man, I really wish they had made Worf an Odd Job.
Oh, with like
character.
A throw-out hat kind of thing.
Yeah. Or Jaws. Jaws would have been good.
They could have done that with O'Brien, because Falcon,
yeah.
He had an eye patch. That was his thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was a sick eye patch.
It was great.
A cool eye patch.
Had a falcon on it. It was perfect.
And again, they let Avery Brooks off the leash for this episode.
See, that was my note. My note was all the other characters get to play new. All the other actors get to play new and exciting characters, but Avery Brooks is just playing himself.
Yes.
That laugh, that little bark of.
He went so big in this. He basically went full Shatner. It was beautiful.
It was great.
Yep.
Like,
also, what an awesome, like, that narrow jacket was fucking.
Oh, so good.
I need it.
They I really really need one of the superhero companies to just please cast that man as a villain, and whoever directs him needs to be told, like, just let him do whatever. You know, like, let him be Marlon Brando on the set of any of his late films. Just cut him loose, we'll work around it. Because Marvel, frankly, has had, and people discussed this before, they kind of have a lack of actually good villains, with a very small handful of exceptions. And I feel like just letting Avery Brooks show up and be crazy would be a solution.
It'd be great.
In a X-Men movie?
Any Marvel property, I don't care which one.
I don't want Avery Brooks in Marvel.
Neither do I, but
it's so...
DC's not doing much of a good job right now. Oh my god, oh my god. They could make a good Green Lantern movie, paint him pink and make him Sinestro.
Ooh.
Sorry,
I'd actually watch
James
that.
Bond, not Avery Brooks and other things.
Oh.
But yeah, no, they really nailed the whole, like, just 60s spy movie aesthetic and feel and thing, the death trap. And that's the other thing, too, is, like, Garak doesn't get it, because he's used to real espionage, whereas, you know, like, Bashir is working within the tropes. Seducing Honey Bear shouldn't work, but he knows that's how this game works. And that's the thing, is that, like, while it's their physical form, it's not their mental form. They're all being driven by the story. You know, like, I am sure it would have been impossible for Julian to lose the card game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that, it is designed. He will always get the right cards.
True.
If he wants to seduce the villain scientist, she's going to fall for him. And
if he wants to uncork a champagne bottle, it's going to take Falcon out.
Yes.
If he wants to monologue, he will be allowed to monologue.
Yeah. Even, like, they even acknowledge, you know, when Noah wins, he goes, I somehow felt like I wouldn't win. Because he's not supposed to.
The whoever designed the program didn't create an ending where Noah wins.
Yeah. So there's no, like, pre-existing dialogue.
Like in Galaxy Quest when they think the ship's about to explode, but it doesn't because it never actually happens in the show.
It always
counts down
stops at
1 second, yeah.
Exactly.
The thing that kept bothering me this episode is, so I get that Garak and Bashir would have different ways of thinking in terms of, should we sacrifice everybody else for us to get out of here, because Garak doesn't want to die, Bashir doesn't want to die. It'd be nice if we could save the 5 people who are stuck in here with us, but, you know, if necessary, kill them.
Yeah.
Well, by shutting down the holodeck.
Yep.
But the thing is, like, I felt like it got really repetitive and it started way too early. Like, the second we see Kira on the bed, kill her! It's like, oh, Garak, where did that come from?
Well, that also might be before before they knew that, you know,
they were real.
No, that was well after. Like, the second Eddington radios in and says, hey guys, so these 5 officers are stuck in the holodeck with you, and they're actually them, so just make sure they don't get killed, okay?
Also, I didn't do it.
Yep.
I told you I didn't do it.
But literally, like, after that line comes out, Garak says, so we're gonna kill them, right?
Just kill everybody.
Well, here's the thing. Garak has 2 friends on the station, Odo and Julian, and neither of them will be killed by this, so...
I think it might also, I can't remember, like, the order of events, but, you know, that was also the same scene where they realize the safeties are off, right? Because, of course, the safeties are off.
Oh, yeah, there's a scene where he's like, Garak, you're bleeding.
I think that's shortly after that. It's the same scene, but it's a little bit after.
He gets into the fight.
Okay.
Yeah, because Miles shows up with his henchman.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting that they didn't have Odo on the runabout, because they could have had a great scene where Bashir's drinking a Manhattan and Odo's
Garak's
the cherry. Like, wait a minute, there's something not right with that Manhattan, and he does a spit take. And it turns into, you know, that
would have messed up the B plot, though, like the outside the house we plot, because, like, it's already big enough conceiving of how much memory the regular humanoid bodies take up.
Oh yeah,
and minds.
And
like, Odo is a much more complex being.
Yeah. Oh, so he wouldn't drink a Manhattan; he would drink a martini.
Truth.
Well,
shaken, not stirred.
Maybe that's the joke. Then maybe it's shouldn't that be a martini? And then he realizes it's Odo. I like how Eddington pops up when they need an extra crew member.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we want to get everybody in on this holodeck fun, But we're going to need someone on the outside in
Not
addition to
having
Odo.
fun.
Yeah. Someone to be sober and in charge.
Well, someone to be the Starfleet officer who comes up with the, like, bizarre fix this idea.
Mm.
Because this is, I mean, I know we've shared it before, but this is sort of one of the examples from that meme that goes around occasionally about the weird bullshit humans pull in Star Trek. And they talk about how, like, the only time something bizarre happens on DS9, which is Cardassian tech, happens because a human has a crazy idea.
You mean the writer, or do you mean Eddington?
Both.
Yeah, because I know that with the writing of this episode, from very early on, the writers are like, we're not going to do malfunctioning holodeck. It's been done to death on TNG. No malfunctioning holodeck in Deep Space Nine. And then one of them comes up to the writers and say, what if it's not the holodeck that's malfunctioning and it's the transporter? And they're like, good, do that. That's fine. Go ahead.
So this was our
It's not
first...
like we've ever had a transporter accident before.
Yeah, no shit.
It's the
Those are
first
still on the
time.
table.
It's the first time transporter and holodeck fuck-uppery has joined forces, though.
But it is our first holosuite fuck-up episode in Deep Space Nine then, though, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's what I
yes.
thought.
It's our first significant holosuite episode.
Yeah.
Like there's been like we've had like scenes, here and there in holosuites, or
Yeah,
like,
but the
seen
only
them coming
ones that I
out.
can think of are, like,
Lancelot.
Dax trying to get Kira to have sex with a holosuite masseuse person,
That's the
Yeah.
last one I'm thinking.
and
of.
that time that they photoshopped Quark's head onto Kira's body. Like,
There was also
Yeah, exactly.
that time that guy cloned himself and had the clone get stabbed in the holosuite.
oh,
to
so he
try to
could frame
frame
Odo
Odo.
for murder.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
there's
okay, I forgot
also
about
wasn't some of Bashir and O'Brien's like racquetball training or whatever the fuck.
No, that
Yeah,
was in
some
the
of
They
them
had a
episode.
real court.
That was a
I thought some of that
racquetball court that the chief built.
But we know that they
Oh,
like to
right,
go
okay.
kayaking.
I mean,
Yep.
Oh yeah, we
Move
hear
Along
about it all
Home
the
was
time.
kind of a holodeck episode. It just wasn't Quark's holodeck.
That is true.
We can move on.
Which episode?
Move along home.
Malamarine.
Ugh, barf.
But yeah, I feel like there was a conscious thought on the part of the writers early on that, well, TNG leaned a lot on the holodeck.
Yeah.
Like there was a lot of holodeck nonsense on TNG, probably more than necessary.
Mm.
And I feel like the writers on this were probably like, all right, we're not going to use the holodeck. Like, number one, we're going to acknowledge that people fuck in the holodeck. Number two, we're not going to have too many holodeck adventures.
Yeah.
Except the ones that involve fucking in the holodeck.
Right.
Because you know what? Mona loves it.
Yep.
Ugh.
Such a good Bond girl name, too.
Of course, the other thing I meant to mention is that our Man Bashir, for all the Bond references, is probably, actually, if anything, a reference to a Graham Greene novel, Our Man in Havana.
Well, didn't you say there was literally something called Our Man Flint?
Oh, yes, but Our Man Flint was probably a reference more to...
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
Also a reference to Our Man in Havana.
Man, Havana.
Which is actually an early espionage parody novel. Not parody, it's a satire, where basically somehow this random schlub in Havana is tapped by MI6 to provide intelligence, and he doesn't really have anything, so he just starts making shit up, and it kind of all escalates from there.
Whoops.
Oh yeah, forgot about this, I read this earlier. This premiered 10 days after the release of GoldenEye, which was Brosnan's first Bond, and also the first Bond in 6 years.
Golden Eye.
Which, at that point, was the longest gap there had been in the franchise history.
Jesus Christ. So how
Yeah,
many... There sounds like there's way too many Bonds.
There's like 24,
He's the
right?
man.
Or
Yeah,
25?
more
Sounds,
than
it sounds like there's as many
with a
Bonds
Midas
as there are
sight.
Star Trek series right now.
Are we on like 28?
Oh, do you mean actors?
No, I think the next one's 25.
No, I
Or
mean
26.
movies.
Okay.
There's way more Bond movies than Star Trek movies.
Yes.
Yeah, no, they're because for a while, especially at first, they were pumping them out on a yearly basis. Then it was every other year for a while, and I think every 3 years eventually. Like, it's funny, because the 20th Bond film also coincided with their 40th anniversary.
Mhm.
Was that Casino Royale? Or was it whatever was right
No,
before
that was Die Another Day, which is mostly terrible.
That's a shame.
That's the one with the disappearing car.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
the
then-
good henchmen and everything else was trash.
Yeah. But then production was such that by the time you got to the 50th anniversary, they were only on Spectre, which was like the 23rd film?
Is that the last one?
Yes.
Not Spectre, I meant
Skyfall.
Skyfall.
Mm.
So yeah, they were pumping them out incredibly fast from 62 to 89. And then, yeah, there was the big gap before GoldenEye, and then production kind of slowed down more dramatically at that point.
Well, I feel like the movies also got more expensive and bigger.
Yeah.
And I mean, filming practices changed over the years. Like in the 60s, it was completely normal for a lead actor like Connery to have been in like several movies in 1 year.
Yeah, I mean, the studio system had really only just died, and a lot of, like, expectations on actors hadn't changed much yet. And they were also just, there were a lot more practical effects that were done on site, whereas now there's a lot more post-production and this and that.
Yeah.
But,
Plus, his, like, real technology has surpassed Bond technology. Like, a pen that's also a camera isn't impressive anymore. Like, I have a phone that is also a camera.
I have a phone that
is also a supercomputer,
Yeah.
But what about a watch that's a laser beam?
Don't have that yet, but give it time.
There's probably
or
a
it's
laser pointer
the
watch
remote,
out there.
what is it in GoldenEye, that in the game, they have it as like
it's in the movie,
remote
too.
detonator? Well, I'm much more familiar with the game.
Yeah,
than...
remote detonator,
Yeah, I was
and
gonna
he's got a
say,
laser built in.
No one's actually seen GoldenEye. They've only ever played GoldenEye.
GoldenEye's.
I have seen GoldenEye, I just don't know it as well as...
I don't remember it. I remember it had Sean Bean.
It did.
Guys.
I was about
Alan
to say
Cumming.
Liam Neeson, and that's not
Alan
right.
Cumming. Oh, actually, and,
Famke Janssen?
yeah.
Good old Famke.
You know what I found? Oh, she's a Star Trek actress. I guess we'll have to 10-forward it.
I'm down. Write down, I mean, I support this.
No, we should
I was going to say...
we should do Moonraker, because it's the space one.
Perfect.
And it's got Jaws, and he's the best.
Sure.
Is he a shark?
Yes.
I found I had a promotional, it was like a send away thing to get a watch in Nintendo Power.
Oh no.
That looks like the watch from the video game.
Oh yeah, it had like the blue and like the red, your health and your shield on the side.
Yeah, man.
That's amazing.
And it had a holographic 007 on the face.
Fuck yeah.
Very cool.
I bet if you have a round smartwatch, you can download a face that looks like that now.
Oh, I'm sure.
Probably.
Oh god, I was going to say something about the episode, but it fizzled.
I'm trying to figure out where to go next. Like,
But yeah, they did very purposely make it to align with James Bond coming back after a hiatus. Interestingly, one thing this beat Bond to, Bashir rocks himself a shawl lapel, which will not actually happen in the series until we get to Daniel Craig.
A what?
I thought you were going to say it's the first time Bond is depicted
As
having a
bisexual.
male lover.
Yeah. Now, as long as the Broccolis are in charge of Bond, he will remain thoroughly heterosexual, unfortunately.
I thought the costuming was mostly really great.
Yeah.
Like, I thought...
Well, yeah, that's what I said. So the shawl lapel, that's, if you look at his tux, the lapel of his jacket doesn't have any, like, points or notches.
Oh, it's
or
like
anything.
one big...
It's just one smooth, rounded sort of... And all the other Bonds, as far as I remember, generally had some sort of notched lapel.
My one exception to the costumes being great, though, Liz and I were, like, really annoyed by this, was Garak's outfit.
Oh, I loved his tweed jacket.
No.
It was not a good match for him.
It was a
he looked
great
Nick.
costume, but he looked terrible in it.
He looked great, Nick. You're wrong.
It was
He's
all
a
wrong for
winter,
his
not
I like the
complexion and
turtleneck.
power.
I thought the turtleneck was cool. It covered up his neck.
Oh yeah, they had to do a lot of
but-
special tailoring for that neck.
Yeah.
But like the burgundy turtleneck on his gray complexion.
I thought he looked great. You're
No,
both
I didn't
wrong.
like it. I didn't like it.
And Julian's gray suit.
You know who I thought looked really phenomenal, though, actually? I loved Worf in that white tux. Thought he looked fucking
He rocked
banging.
it.
Yeah.
And there was some
was not
great décolletage on the ladies. Not that I know.
Oh,
Dick.
God.
Decoupage?
Especially on Mona. Jesus, that was.
Yeah, Liz was like, "How is she not falling out of that thing?"
Because like as someone who has a lot to deal with in that area, like I was just in there. It was like either she's a like a B or C cup who's getting a boost, or like there's a lot of tape involved in that, and my sternum was just irritated watching it.
I hated her.
Probably
outfit.
both.
No, it was so much tape.
It was not period accurate.
Oh no.
That's why Chris hates the outfit.
Have we ever seen Cardassian blood before?
We
I
must
don't think
have by
so,
now.
actually.
Because I wasn't expecting it to be red.
Yeah, I thought I'd read it was brown.
I thought it'd be like blue or something.
Yeah, I feel like we've seen it in something.
We must have by
And
now.
it was brown.
What about the one where, wasn't there an episode where, like, O'Brien befriended a Cardassian?
Yeah, but no one
did?
bled in
Yeah.
that one from what I recall.
Oh, because the Cardassian was dying, wasn't he? I guess I assumed he must have... No? Oh, I'm remembering this wrong. I don't know.
Cardassians have definitely been injured on screen by now. Like, I mean,
Must
indiscretion, he got his butt poked.
Well, we know...
That's true.
Phrasing.
Oh, wait, were you just talking about indiscretion?
Yes.
Oh, that's literally what I was just about to say. Sorry.
Yeah. Did I say Garrett? No, Gul Dukat. Dukat got like...
Poked in the ass.
But I don't
yeah.
remember if there was blood in that
We
one.
never saw
No.
There
that,
was
I don't
not,
think.
no.
No. He just
But,
broke
yeah.
his butt.
Well, blood is, like, really, like, problematic for television shows, right? Like, it can really, like, up the maturity
It tends
warning
to
or
up the
whatever.
rating, yeah.
I think
Well,
this was before that whole TV-14
Oh,
bullshit, though.
that garbage.
I think that was a little later.
Hmm.
I think.
Either way, there
Yeah,
must
that was
be,
like a
like,
Tipper Gore bullshit.
some
or
kind
something.
of rules about it. Decency laws or something
Yeah,
stupid.
but this is a show that, I mean, I think always was like, you know. I mean, if they couldn't show it at all, that'd be one thing. So.
Yeah.
If
I mean,
anything,
I feel
it'd
like
be-
Trek in general is pretty light on the blood.
Yeah.
Like, Klingons bleed all the time. Their blood changes color regularly.
Yep.
True.
But I feel like we see them bleed more so in the movies, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
get away
Yeah.
with more.
Right.
For sure.
But in this episode, they show, Garak gets shot in the neck.
Yeah.
Oh, that moment was great.
That
You
was,
could have
yeah.
killed me. What makes you think I wasn't trying to?
And my note for that little exchange was they're gonna fuck so hard later.
Oh my god, yeah. Like, Garak hasn't been this turned on in ages.
I do like that Garak was monologuing in that moment, like just before
Yeah.
Bashir takes the shot. Like it was the most Bond scene in the whole episode, and I really loved it. I feel like they fucking nailed it.
It is really interesting, though, to see the comparison. I can't think of the word I want. But to see them sort of hold up the idea of the kind of the film spy versus the real spy.
Yeah.
And even while elements, obviously, of Garak are still hyper-fictionalized and is based around the idea of, like, the Obsidian Order is definitely more Smersh than intelligence gathering, but still.
Yeah, like it was definitely evoking. It was a great sort of, I guess, deconstruction. But
Yeah.
it's it's basically it's vocalizing, valid critiques of like Bond type fiction, where real life spying is not glamorous. It's not all of this flash, like baccarat and nightclubs and all of that stuff. It's messy. It's unfortunate decision. It's tough decisions. It's making the call of who has to die.
Oh, and that's the thing too with Bond. It's like they kind of dance around this in the movies. Like they say it, but they don't acknowledge it. He's not an intelligence agent. He's an assassin.
Mm.
He's the guy you send in after the intelligence agents have done their work to mow down a lot of people.
True.
And one thing, this is sort of it's something that is made explicit in, I forget which one, but one of the many John le Carré novels is like, the fictional spy is often interested in some sort of idea of justice. There is a quote-unquote bad guy that has to be defeated. Whereas real intelligence agents don't give a fuck about that. It's just, we're going to gather intelligence to thwart the other country. And for a lot of successful agents, who you are loyal to is a coincidence of birth.
Yeah.
Real actual sort of fanatics rarely succeed in intelligence. Because you have to be able to be much more compromising and bendable to successfully be a spy. And I think we see that very much with Garak, his whole, like, I live because I'm looking out for me at the end of the day. He's loyal to Cardassia, certainly, we know that much, but number one is Garak. Number two is the state. And this, is sort of that Bond issue writ large, where it's like, no, there's something I have to do, there's a very specific goal, I need to protect these people. Which spies don't care about protection, they care about intelligence gathering.
Right.
Cool.
Wow.
Fucking Jake.
Wow.
That was just extremely long.
Sorry, I read a lot
No, but
of
it was
John le
good.
Carré.
I thought it was interesting.
L'Kari is definitely like in the right direction when talking about Garak.
Yeah, because their methodologies...
It's even less glamorous.
Yeah, their methodologies and philosophies are very similar.
There's a lot of like gray morality in L'Kari.
Yeah, and it's, for a lot of these people, it's...
doomed people.
Yeah, and for most of his main characters, because we rarely even see people in the field, it's people doing a shitty desk job in a grey-ass part of London.
Yeah.
It is the anti-Bond. It is the least glamorous job in the world.
So if anything, Garak is more glamorous than them because he's a tailor.
Yes. Do we actually want to talk about the outside of the holodeck stuff at all?
Yes.
Great.
I have there were a couple of moments where I was just like, what the fuck? But one was definitely when Eddington was like, computer, wipe all computer memory necessary to, I'm like, specify first. Holy shit, you're gonna like wipe the OS.
All right, at least
Pop.
Get rid of all that shit you downloaded from Napster years ago. Get rid of that first. Start there.
I didn't think of Pop.
With like one line, they could have easily referenced, it could have like just done a very quick moment of world building that there's like there's priority levels of data set in place already.
Here's the thing:
they must have a backup, right?
Do you think Starfleet thinks that far in advance?
Yeah, Star Trek seems to not.
Also,
Star Trek has a
Cardassian
weird
technology,
idea
so
of how
messier.
data works.
So so the Cardassians have the backup, unbeknownst to everybody that's on the station.
And here's the thing: Eddington is security, not whoever deals with the computers.
IT.
He doesn't care. Some blue shirt should have been in the background going, ah!
Someone should have programmed the computer to say specify which memory banks.
Well, yeah, but it's some weird hybrid Cardassian.
He did do like an authorization, Eddington.
He did.
Go fuck myself.
Initially, I was very skeptical of the idea that they wouldn't have space for this because I was thinking about how tiny a terabyte can be nowadays and how this is like 400 years in the future. Or 300 some odd years in the future. And Liz reminded me that, it's several lives. And then I was like, oh, and plus one of them is Dax, who has like 7 lives, plus her actual host and the whole thing.
Yeah, God knows how.
Memory. Like a single strand of, I meant to look this up, a single strand of human DNA, it's been compared to like how many terabytes or whatever, I can't remember what's bigger than terabyte that we actually, petabyte?
Is that
petabyte is the other one.
Yeah, like there's petabyte, yottabytes.
Yeah, that's it. All those. But like there are comparisons that people do reference sometimes of how much memory a single strand of human DNA would occupy, and it's just incalculable almost.
Yeah, and that's
just for one strand.
Yeah, and then you have to get into the fucking neurological data, which I'm sure is even crazier.
Yeah, and this is all talking about a theoretical technology that is downloading an entire person in order to destroy them at the origin point and rebuild them from scratch at the destination.
So
I actually do. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I just looked it up. According to Google, anyway, the human genome is 725 megabytes.
Oh, really? That's it?
So which is smaller than terabytes.
It would fit on a CD-ROM.
So I guess I'm thinking with from like old articles.
Well, this is the genome, but where the big issue.
It's a genome though, but not like all the data that would be in one file.
And also the big issue they even said was more the neurological pattern data than the physical data.
Okay.
Yeah, the Hull seem to handle the physical data pretty well. But
here's my argument though: doesn't data just in his whatever the fuck kind of brain he has.
Positronic.
Doesn't he have, like, the memories of 200 some odd people?
Depending on the episode.
I'm just saying, he's a lot smaller than all of the memory on that ship, I would guess.
They listed his specifications once, and they were laughably small by modern standards.
Yeah.
I mean, think about Johnny Mnemonic. 256 gigs.
Megs.
Oh, no, not too.
Whatever, either way.
Yeah.
But I also
5
think, though,
CDs.
Or
the bigger problem was that they needed specific type of storage.
Yeah.
For because they needed like quantum storage.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Yeah. Meanwhile, over there, I've got a thing the size of a pinky nail that holds 256 gig.
Yeah, I'm actually having
128.
The size of technology right now. I have an SD card somewhere around here that's 128 gigs, and I don't know where the fuck I put it. I put it somewhere safe, but it's safe from me, and it doesn't stick out anymore because it's teeny tiny.
It's in your Roomba.
I'm really frustrated. I can't find it. I need it.
But yeah, it's like you said, Jake, this show has a very bizarre understanding of computers and data storage and all that.
Yeah, it's definitely the blind spot of Star Trek. Like, there's so much, well, not a blind spot, that's too harsh, but in terms of the science aspect of the science fiction of Star Trek, astronomy, physics, like, when they need to do that, they call up the people they need to fill in the tech dialogue or whatever. But when it comes to the logic of, like, information technology, data science, it's at least flawed enough that I, while I work with data scientists in my day job, I'm also not, I'm a liberal arts major, but I still look at them like, that's not right. That doesn't make sense.
Like, with TOS, I get it, because if you look at most science fiction from the 60s, no one realized where computers were going. Like,
no, because it's constantly changing.
But, like, certain things, like, they guessed in the 50s and 60s, like, hey, you nailed it. Almost nobody got computers right. Like, in the least.
Yeah.
By now, it's a little better. I think what they were probably just doing is, like, so much of this, even in TNG and DS9, predates, like, the layman knowing as much as they do about computers. So they could kind of get away with it. Nowadays, it's harder because, like you said, your average liberal arts major clearly knows more about computers than most of the writers. You don't have to say it with
such an edge in your voice.
Jeez.
Well,
I think Liz is a little above average, Chris.
I'm talking about myself.
Thank you, Jake. I am above average.
I'm talking about myself.
Okay, yeah, you're average.
And I know more about computers, it sounds like, than the average TNG or DS9 writer.
I would say that Liz is above average, and you and Liz probably average out to average.
Oh, thank you.
No, that's not very nice.
Joke.
I know way more about fictional espionage than any of you, though, so...
That's true.
Anyway,
so
I was going to say...
half an hour of talking.
I know, I'm watching Ames, and she's like drinking her tea. She's like, they're still talking about this garbage.
Yeah, I was kind of dreading this episode.
Look, you're lucky me or Liz let any of you say anything. Go on, Ames.
It's true.
Thank you. I did learn that this is the first episode that was filmed after Nana and Sid got together.
Oh.
I asked that while we were watching it. Thank you, Ames.
Yeah, so they had recently started dating, so it kind of holds a special place in Nana Visitor's heart, because apparently she learned, because, she'd been friends with him for the past several seasons, and learned that, he's been, like, holding a candle for me this whole time. Kind of like what Odo is doing for Kira.
That actually was, so one little moment that stood out to me during this watch that I never noticed before was the first time, when Eddington calls into the holosuite and then, Anastasia speaks, Odo immediately just, like, his head jumps up and he's just like, that sounds like Kira. Like,
yeah,
just a little accent.
But he just, like, that little, like, glimmer of, like, oh no, there she is, I'm so concerned. So, like, it was adorable. It was an adorable character moment. Like, Odo is lighter in this episode than the other characters who we see in the episode, but he still gets this, like, really, like, key Odo moment there.
I also love whenever Odo has to react to crazy, stupid shit the humans do. And this, like, is the epitome of that.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm sorry, you did what?
What's better, though? Odo reacting to crazy, stupid shit humans do, or crazy, stupid shit Ferengi do? Like, they open up
the spatula.
Yeah, they open up the panel and they're like, oh no, what is in here? There's, like, lunch, there's several rats that aren't even me.
Oh, that's right.
I like, though, that, it does two things, right? It establishes, again, as we've been seeing throughout the last few episodes, Rom's technical abilities, that he actually is a very competent engineer. But it also highlights just how fucking cheap Quark is, that he won't even, the holodecks bring in almost no money, so I'm not going to pay to repair them.
I would love to know what his opinion of not enough profit is.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, even then, like, at first the spatula is kind of like, what's there, a spatula? Like, oh, Rom. And then he gives a perfectly salient reason it's in there. It's like it's a really good conductor because of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
I do love that, Eddington's like, oh, the chief is gonna be pissed. And, like, the first thing O'Brien says when he materializes, what'd you do to my ship?
That was pretty great.
Neato. Anything else about our man?
This was the longest shoot of any Deep Space Nine episode because of all the sets and stunts and bullshit they had to do. So normally an episode takes 7 days to film. This one took 9.
Oh wow!
Oh okay.
Deep Space.
I was
9 days,
expecting you to say like 15 or something like that.
Yeah.
3 months they were filming this episode.
Yeah, it was that extra 2 days of widening the neck on Garak's tuxedo.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I thought Garrett looked great in the tux. It was the professor outfit he got after the fact.
I do like that Julian's was a little nicer.
Was it? I thought Garrett's looked better.
Julian's looked more expensive. Like, again, it had the fancier lapel and it had the little black buttons, whereas, like, Garak just has, like, little normal plastic shirt buttons and the lapel's a little more generic. And of the two of them...
Somehow Garak looked better then.
That's fair.
Well, he knows how to wear a suit.
True.
I mean, considering that he spent half the episode just expressing utter disdain for the decor, the fashion, everything.
Another decorator's nightmare.
Anytime Julian had to, be so blatantly heterosexual, he just rolled his eyes, made a snide comment.
So good.
Totally not jealous, though.
No.
Oh, yeah. I'd give you both some privacy if I could, says Garak, staring.
I wish we'd seen more of the Baccarat game.
Why?
I like Baccarat.
No, you're the only
I'm
one,
glad
though.
we didn't.
You're definitely the only one.
I should rephrase
Nobody
that.
understands
I don't
Baccarat.
like Baccarat, but I like in the movies when they have a game and they have their back and forth. I wanted more back and forth between him and Worf.
You wanted the dialogue that goes over the game.
Yeah, Baccarat itself is just blackjack with slightly different rules.
All right, what would you have cut, Chris, to get more Baccarat?
I don't know, some outside the holodeck nonsense.
I thought that was already kept pretty lean.
It was,
Yeah,
but if something has to go, it's that.
Chris wants to banish that nice moment that Odo had so we can get some more fucking Baccarat.
Chris is a monster.
That has to be in there because that's how they realize what's going on.
I know, I'm just kidding.
Also, it's a nice Odo moment.
I don't know, they could have trimmed a few minutes out of the escape scene or something. Sped that up a little. It just would have been nice to have a little, pithy back and forth over cards with Worf, because that would have been funny.
And Garak, because he has to keep just shoehorning his way into Bashir's fun.
Yeah. Maybe they even could have pointed out the fact, it's like, Doctor, is it actually possible for you to lose this? Shut up.
I feel like Garak was like almost a little bit shamey.
Oh, just
like,
the way
I feel like he was really
mocking
mocking his fantasies.
Absolutely, he was totally just a buzzkill for Julian's little LARP.
I mean,
just in a way that felt uncomfortable, I guess.
Well, I don't think
fair.
Cardassians have fantasy.
I think that
they've got Enigma tales or whatever the fuck.
It's an extension of their ongoing literary discussion and debate. You know, when we've already heard what Cardassian fiction is like, and it's not at all compatible with something like Bond.
And I think despite his claims, part of him might be slightly annoyed at seeing, like, his career made into a game.
Yeah.
Especially one that's so fucking inaccurate.
I don't know. You see every career made into a game right now. There's like, a stock a grocery store, the video game. And people play it like crazy.
Yeah, I'm sure real stock boys are like, what?
But
Euro Truck Simulator.
Some careers definitely have a higher rate of PTSD.
Yeah.
Than others. I mean, grocery stores are high, it's high risk. Right?
Job Simulator is very fun.
That's right now.
But mostly because the idea is it's like robots in the future trying through like a game of telephone to understand how jobs worked in the 20th century.
Oh, yeah.
So it's comedic.
All right, this is going long.
Okay.
Okie dokie.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us for A Star to Steer Her By. Next week, we're going to talk about 2 more Deep Space Nine episodes. Talk about Homefront and Paradise Lost. If you like what you heard and you'd like to hear more, you can find A Star to Steer Her By where all fine podcasts are sold. We are on SoundCloud, Google Play, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts. You can also find us on Tumblr and Twitter at SSHB Podcast, or you can visit our website at sshbpodcast.com. I have been Caitlin.
I have been Jake.
This has been Chris.
This has been Ames.
And this is still Liz.
Rule of acquisition number 7, always get it shaken, not stirred.
I can't stop recording because we have to
do
A Star to Steer Her By will return.
All right.